Well, hello, I'm Mark Aron with River City TV. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to join us today. We've made it down to the Danville Police Department, and our guest today is the Chief of the Danville Police Department, Chief Chris Wiles. Chief, appreciate you taking the time to join us today. And I know preliminary crime statistics for 2024 have been released, and we shared those on River City TV a couple of weeks ago, but wanted to sit down with you today and kind of do a little deeper dive in those statistics. And I know we're so excited to share with our community members. We're seeing, again, a reduction in crime, about 8% here in the community.
Yes, sir, overall.
Yeah. So, and that's for almost 5 years in a row now. We've been seeing that. Yeah. So I know you're excited to see those numbers come through for 2024.
Really are, Mark. Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for coming and allowing us the opportunity to share with River City TV, our crime and review for 2024.
Absolutely.
Again, this is preliminary data. That information generally gets firmed up near as we get towards spring. Okay. That allows for investigations that occurred, particularly towards the latter part of 2024, to potentially come to conclusion. You may have arrests and clearances of those offenses that occurred, late in the year. And for that matter, even, investigations can be lengthy and they sometimes can take months and in some cases across years. And then also too, offenses. It gives an update on that, a chance to update. Sometimes an offense may end up not being what was initially reported, or sometimes an offense that was initially reported or something could end up being something different.
Okay.
So that just gives a several month period of time for us to update those crime statistics. But all in all, generally these are pretty accurate. We don't expect, if anything, we expect maybe some increase in clearances as we clear some of those up. But in terms of the accounts of the offenses, that we think these are pretty solid. They'll be firmed up in the spring of the year when the Virginia State Police publishes the crime data for the entire state.
Very good. So let's look at some of those when we talk about larcenies and homicides, what we've seen, in 2024 with reduction. So I know we had a small uptick in homicides. We'll touch on that, but reduction in a lot of the other areas, right?
Sure. Yeah. So certainly the good news is we continue to experience reductions in our property crime.
Right.
Property crime are things like burglary, larcenies, and there's a whole host of different types of larcenies from vehicles, larcenies from buildings, opposed to say like a shoplifting is a type of a larceny. So there's a lot of different categories of larceny that fall under the general gamut of larcenies. Burglaries, of course, are forceful entries into properties, residential properties and business properties. Those are all fall under the area of property offenses. And so what we again have seen is a continued reduction across all of those. And the good thing about having those pretty dramatic reductions in the occurrence of those crimes is that when they do occur, that really, because there's fewer of them to investigate, that really enables us to focus our resources. And so what we do, not only do we have very low reductions and good reductions in the actual occurrences of them, our clearance rates, when we compare that to the FBI national average, and that's when a crime is solved, right? Whether it's generally speaking, it's solved and somebody, an arrest has been made on it. Have extraordinary percentage increases when you compare it to the national average.
Yeah, I saw that in the numbers that came out. The clearance rates were unbelievable. And I know our investigations unit was recognized on a national level in 2024 for the work that they've been doing here in our community.
Yeah, sure did. That was a fantastic honor. The International Association of Chiefs of Police Conference in October in Boston. I was able to travel up there and be a part of celebrating the recognition Investigative Unit Award. Very prestigious, really something that this community can be proud of its police department, the work that team did. And of course, they got recognized for the award, but the work is done by every member of this organization. And so it was really an honor to be recognized at that place and at that level for the investigative work that Special Investigations does.
It's just great for our community to be able to see the work that's being done and the fruits of the labor of the work that you all are doing when reducing crime and violent crime here in our community.
Yes, sir.
Really, I mean, historic lows what we've seen over the last 5 or 6 years.
Yes, sir.
Because I know people can look back less than a decade ago when it was not the way it is right now
Yes,
here
sir.
in our community.
Absolutely.
So kudos to everybody in the department for the work that they continue to do. We did see an uptick in the homicide. Well,
We
up
did,
to, you know,
yeah.
from 7 to 9. So I know we want to touch on that before we let you go. Touch on that because
Yeah,
I know
and so-
investigations are still ongoing for the two
Yeah.
that have not been
Yeah.
cleared. Right?
So we did end the year with 9 homicides, which is 2 more than the previous year, and we had about the same the year before that, 7. And so of those that occurred, we cleared 7 of them by arrest. The other 2 are still active and ongoing. One of the ones that still remains active is the homicide we had our first homicide of the year, actually in March of last year, that occurred over on Cabell Street. And so a lot of work has been done and is continuing to be done on that. And there were a lot of people there at the scene when that occurred. We certainly want to encourage the community that anybody that knows somebody was there or was there themselves, to consider the impact of that violence and to come forward with some information on that would help us along the way. We've made progress, but we still have some work to do on that. The other homicide that occurred on Spring Street, we've made an arrest related to that, but not specifically for the homicide. That too occurred on a street, crowded street with a lot of people. Actually, remember there were 2 other individuals that were struck by gunfire. So that, in addition to the young man, lost his life, and so that could have been a much more worse situation than it was. And so making good progress on that investigation. Likewise, there were a lot of people out there on that street and that saw that occur and know it's a crime of violence. So sometimes there's some reluctance of folks to come forward on that. But again, we ask our community to consider if you know somebody or you know somebody who was there to speak to them and consider coming forward and sharing us with information that you have. Help us bring those to a conclusion.
For sure. And you mentioned the community input and how that factors into our crime reduction here in the community, what we've been able to do working with the community over the last 5-6 years.
Absolutely.
And with the community engagement and with these clearance rates, having that rapport with the community really does factor into what we've seen with these reductions in crime.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And crime occurs across the community. It generally doesn't occur when a police officer's there, right? So we really rely on that trust and that communication and frankly that partnership with our community, right? And so if the community doesn't feel like it's in touch with the police department, they don't feel like the community, that the police department is responsive to the community, they're not going to pick up the phone and call when they see something that looks out of sorts, or they're not going to be willing to make that reach out. And so certainly the 2 things that we really focus on in the Danville Police Department, which is reducing crime, preventing crime, specifically violent crime, certainly is the most impactful, and then community engagement, right? And those things are not mutually exclusive. They happen together, and they empower each other, right? The more we communicate, the more we build trust with our community. Again, the more that partnership has, and the people reach out, make those contacts. When they see something, they report things, and that improves our ability to be able to solve crimes. Again, police aren't generally there when it happens, and so we're partners with our community in reducing crime.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and just with the sector policing you all implemented, 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was.
It was.
Having that officer that you can talk with. I know I live in the west end of town in my sector. I've got my lieutenant in that sector that I had a cell phone. I mean, they give that out at the community meetings. You have that contact. So really get that rapport with the officers that work your area. So if you do have an issue, you can contact the police department, and very easy to share the information with them so it can solve any issues that occur.
Yeah.
So really
Yeah, that was a significant change to how we deploy patrol. That been in the department for 31 years, and so it had been, although officers were generally assigned to beats, a particular platoon rotated on and off every shift change, and so the supervisors and leadership, they rotated on and off between day shift and night shift, and so a lot of the focus zone was just getting through the shift, right? Getting through, because it is busy. A lot of calls for service drive patrol, but by making that shift to that quarter-based system, dividing the city geographically into quarters, and then assigning officers and their supervisors to specifically address and be responsive to those specifically, those geographic areas. Hey, you get this is your part. You're responsible for it. You need to build that outreach.
They're vested in that area.
Exactly so, and so that really makes a difference. And it's more technical and complex, right? It's not the easiest thing to manage, right? Having different supervisors in different geographic areas, but we've found that to be successful. And again, tying and having those supervisors, whether they're working or not, they're still ultimately that's their quarter, that's their piece of real estate that they're responsible for making sure that they help improve that community from a crime perspective.
And the reason I brought it up, because there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to reducing crime in the community. Not only the police department, our citizens in the city of Danville play a role too, and you all's involvement creating that rapport with the citizens and has just been remarkable over the last 4 or 5 years. And I know we'll continue to do that here in the city of Danville, and I just wanted to give you the time to come on and share a little bit more. And of course, we've created a link here to the Danville Police Department's Facebook page, the website, all the statistics, the preliminary statistics that have come out. You can dive a little deeper into those if you'd like at your leisure. But Chief, I appreciate you taking the time to give us a little time today to talk a little bit more about this. And congratulations on the numbers. I know it's a lot of work goes into this with you and your officers, and I know the citizens of the city of Danville really appreciate the work you all do.
Well, sir, I tell you, I appreciate the opportunity, and certainly there's a lot of people are responsible for that. And first and foremost, the men and women of this police department are just first class. This community is fortunate to have the professionals that you have protecting our community. And we have a tremendous community, Mark. I tell you, with the support that we get, the outreach that we make, what we hear and see every day, it makes doing the job so much more effective, right? When you know that it's in partnership and that the community really appreciates it. And our elected officials, our city council is so supportive. Our city manager, we're just really in a perfect situation where things are happening. From a economic perspective, things are going well in the community. A population uptick, right? Folks were, some studies were saying that our population was trending down, and we're beating those.
Cooper came out.
That's right. Beating that trend, and so to really see where we are as a community and everything that's all the everybody's from my perspective really focused on improving this community and this is a resilient community, and it's just proud to be a part of it. And again, the men and women of this organization make it happen. So thank you, Mark, for sharing, being able to share the fruits of their work, and we'll continue. Crime is something you have to stay on top of, right? And there's socioeconomic variables that sometimes those correlate with those, and so we kind of continue to work in those things. They don't happen in a vacuum, and so but when you do have a community that's focused and supportive and works with the police department, it makes a difference.
Right. Thanks, Chief. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.